Welcome to Joe's Astrology. This is the birth chart for Donald Trump. And I think I said in a short that he was a Leo moon. He's a Leo rising, moon in Sagittarius, sun in Gemini, born under a full moon. And I am not political at all. I have no opinions on politics. Although I did grow up enjoying Donald Trump, especially the TV show that he did. I forget what it was called. Oh, The Apprentice. I did grow up enjoying that. So let's get into it here. Leo rising, 29 degrees, Mars on the ascendant in Leo. So he does come across as this big Leo type figure, this sun type figure, and at 29 degrees, it's something that I think you really see for his entire life. You see him wanting to be on the center stage, and with Mars there, he comes across as being dominant, assertive. And Mars is also in the Aries decan there at 26 degrees. So a really good rising for, I'd say, to be a president or a CEO of a company with Mars there. With Mars there as well. Mars being the planet that would rule something, or that would be associated with something like a chief executive officer or a leader of a company or just a leader in general. It's making a trine to that moon in the fourth house that is also in the Leo. It's in the Leo decan, being there at 21 degrees. So another, I also would say that that moon and that placement in Sagittarius, especially making a trine to Mars, is also a strong placement for those characteristics as well. Being in a fire sign, in a masculine sign. So we can see as well with the sun in Gemini, his rising, his sun, and his moon are all in masculine signs. Born under a full moon with the sun conjunct the north node and Uranus conjunct the north node, moon conjunct the south node in the 4th and the 10th in Gemini and Sagittarius. Now, Gemini and Sagittarius, with all of that being said, is strong placement for a salesperson as well, someone who can be a talker. They can get around very well. They like to be on the move. Could be a financial person, someone who's into finance, a financier, with that being corresponding with Sagittarius, and that's where he's coming from in the South Node, which I'm going to get into that. This chart is actually from an evolutionary astrology standpoint. If you're familiar with that, if you're not, subscribe to my channel. I'll be talking a lot more about evolutionary astrology. This is, in my opinion, is a very strong chart from the evolutionary astrology perspective. But with the Sun, North Node, and Uranus in the 10th, this is a very much a fruition type life for the 10th house, and for things like being the president, being a father figure, being someone who's taking care of people, someone who's the authority. And with the moon on the South Node in the fourth being the Cancer house where moon would like to be. I'm going to link it down. I'll link it down in the description. I did a North Node video, which I'll link down there. Also did a video on Bill Gates where you see the opposite here. We see the moon in the 10th and the sun down here. And the sun would actually do better up here above the horizon and the moon below the horizon. And Donald Trump has that, which is nice, really nice to see for him. And you can see he's much more likable than someone like Bill Gates, for sure. But with the moon there on the South Node, you can see the feeling of being being stuck. And with all the Leo stuff being said, I think that's the one thing that if there was some type of frustration for him, or this feeling of being stuck, it's that oh, I lost my train of thought. Um, oh, it's that Leo, the stuff about him that he likes to be center stage, and people think negative things about him because of that, those Leo qualities. Uh, that could be, in his mind, that it could be holding him back from really moving completely into this 10th house. And we think of being the president, and maybe even like this idea of having to see himself without status, or even though that's not really the case in his life, the feeling of that, I think Moon, the feeling. Uh, so he's had to balance out that 10th house with that. And I mean, it's not going to go away. His personality, I don't think that's going to go away. But, with the stuff that's going on now with the trials and things like that, that's all part of that process of being stuck. And it's like he needs that moon, that Sagittarius Leo type moon. But at the same time, it is probably the one thing that may be holding him back. So it's kind of a catch-22. So the I wanted to get more on this evolutionary astrology. But before I say that, we look at the second house, because the second house we see the money, and he does have Jupiter in the second house, but he has Chiron there and he has Neptune there. I think with Neptune there, being disillusioned about money, or just in general, I think that's not a bad place for him, because obviously he has a lot of money. Maybe again with some of the tax on him, and probably having a tax on his financial status, that might correlate with that as well. Also, I think it's not really a bad placement, because he's got so much money, and I don't think he really cares that much about money. Where if we saw some other planets there with Neptune there, he has a different understanding of money than most people. With Jupiter Chiron there, I think he does want to help people, and we're going to see that here with the trine out to Ceres in Aquarius in the 6th. Ceres being the asteroid of service, it's in his 6th house of work and service, and it's in Aquarius, the sign for the people, the social sign. So I do think, and it's even making a trine here to Uranus. All that stuff about Aquarius applies, and it's in the 10th. He may be seen as being someone who's odd or weird or unique, but also a president that's for the when I say, I guess, for the people. Everyone, they advertise themselves for that, but I do think he, with looking at this chart here, he does want to help people, and he's very progressive with that Uranus trine Jupiter. We see it right now, Jupiter Uranus conjunction, but he's very progressive, as well as being traditional at the same time. And speaking of being progressive, he does have 3 planets in the 11th in Cancer, so more of that. His Mercury's in Cancer, his Venus is in Cancer, more of that caring energy of and being empathetic. And you see, it's also the Venus is making a trine to the moon. I'm sorry, in conjunct to the moon, which I'll get into. But yeah, empathetic, and I don't think he comes across like this to many people, but if I think about it, I do see that. You see him, he's for the working man, etc. Whatever you think about that, whether it's a lie or a front, if we just take it for what it is, and we look at the astrology, and I did do a short saying, joking about him working in doing everything he's doing in his 70s, and someone made a comment about, because he's a great man, And there's something, I think there's something to be said about that with here with this Cancer and this series and the series in the sixth, because it really doesn't need, people don't need to do these things. And you could say it's for their ego, etc., but they don't need to do these things at that age. And usually coming from a place of service could be the impetus for that, for the continuation at such a late stage of life. But here with the evolutionary astrology, this is such a good chart with Pluto in the 12th. The 12th is what often we see like a stacked 12th house when it comes to political, when it comes to politicians, which we don't see here. But at soul level, he's got this Pisces 12th house Pluto. And the South Node is in the 4th. So where he's coming from is this watery, empathetic 12th house, 4th house with the moon in the 4th. And then if we look at where he's headed, which is the North Node and the opposition of Pluto, say the opposition of Pluto, where I said he goes into that state of service in the 6th house, and that brings him into his North Node in the 10th. So it's and that we would say that's the Earth, the Earth houses, the 6th and the 10th. So coming from this place of service and empathy in the water signs and caring, and that brings him into the money and the Earth houses. So you can see if you're taking notes here and you want to make money, come from a place of service genuinely, and you will make, at least in the world we live in today in the United States, usually you will make a lot of money. And this is a very consistent chart that correlates with that, because oftentimes you'll see, like, you might see this Pluto in the 12th, or the Pluto in the 12th, and let's say the South Node was in the 3rd. No, I'm sorry, let's say the South Node was in the 2nd or the 1st. Let's just go with the 1st. Pluto in the 12th, South Node in the 1st. That isn't as, like, it doesn't match up you're coming from the 12th and the 1st. They, Pisces and Aries don't really mix as well as Pisces and Cancer. So this Cancer here too is big goals and objectives here with big hopes and wishes with, I think the 11th could be associated with wealth as well. He's got Venus there, Saturn, Mercury. And that's all making an inconjunct back to this moon in the 4th. And he is big into real estate, and we could say real estate can correlate with that 2nd house and the 4th. And the 2nd house is ruled by Mercury, being ruled by Virgo there. And the 2nd house comes back to this Mercury here in the 11th. I'm sure there's more to be said about that. I just don't know that much about the 11th or that much about his life. But with that inconjunct there, he's had to make, that's a good tension because he's had to make adjustments. And we see with the inconjunct or the quincunx, it's in the Virgo inconjunct, so very much having to use his analytical mind. And you can see in his house of values, he has the sign Virgo that rules the analytical mind. Jupiter in Libra, some basic astrology here, very good. This Jupiter sextile moon in Libra, Sagittarius, very good for social life. It's a combination of air and fire. It's also in the Aquarius decan. Very good for someone who has a life like him to have Jupiter in Libra. Sometimes I wish I had Jupiter in Libra. I have Jupiter in Sagittarius. It's got Jupiter, Saturn, square. Any aspect, I'd say, between Jupiter and Saturn is better than no aspect. So I'm going to leave it there for now. Donald Trump, politics aside, I do appreciate Donald Trump. Have a good day.